Our next guest is a giant among Michiganders. Dr. Anan Ameri was born in Syria, grew up in Jordan, and later moved to the United States. While here, she has let no moss grow under her feet. She has earned a PhD, founded 2 noteworthy nonprofits, and was recently named to the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame. Anan Ameri joins us via Skype from Ann Arbor, Michigan, to tell us her story. Anan, it's a pleasure to welcome you to Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you. Thank you very much for hosting me. I'm happy to be with you.
Awesome. You came to the United States in 1974. What was the hardest part about that transition for you?
You know, the hardest part is that not knowing anybody, not knowing the language, landing in Detroit, not knowing how to drive, not having a green card and not allowed to work. So that combined make it really, really a challenging adjustment. But I am lucky to have met many kind people in Detroit who helped me through the transition. And once I signed up to Wayne State University, start meeting people, other students, faculty member, life start to ease up gradually.
And so certainly friendships make a big difference in how we adjust to an area. But I think there is also a big difference between Detroit and I think at the time you were in Beirut, correct?
I was in Beirut and my mind couldn't really wrap around the idea that there is no public transportation, that every adult should have a car, that tuition for an English class for a foreign student was $300. When I got my BA and my master from Amman and Cairo, I don't think I spent $300 in tuition. So these were big adjustments for me.
Sure. So were you taking ESL classes at the time?
Yes, I was taking English and then I found the International Institute, which was you hardly pay anything, but then there's no bus to go there, or a bus take 2 hours, you're always late to class. So, but you adjust, you work, you meet wonderful people who help you, and life goes on. I kept telling myself, Anan, millions of people made this trip, they managed, they succeeded, and you can do it.
Sure. Do you remember the kindness of any one particular individual at that time in your life?
Yeah, I remember a friend who, lent me money. When I came here, actually, I came because I met my ex-husband in Beirut, Lebanon. So I came to visit him, and then I was married to him. So he was extremely, extremely supportive. There are a couple faculty at the university, Barbara Aswad, and, who had helped me a lot. So, yes, I remember that kindness. But being married also to an Arab American who lived in Detroit made life much, much easier. And I have a friend who I met when I met my ex-husband, who is still my friend, 40-some years later. He helped me. He taught me how to drive. So, yes, there's a lot of kind people in this country.
Sure. How often do you get back to your home cities?
When my mother was alive, unfortunately, my father died shortly after I moved to the United States. So I really didn't. But when my mother was still alive, she lived a good time after him. I used to go there, once a year. When she got really older, when I worked with Palestine Aid Society, I used to take delegation to Israel and the West Bank. So every time I was there, I'll make a point to cross the border and go see my mother. But after she passed and after I'm not I changed career, I don't go as much. I go every 3 years, maybe. My sister who lived there, I have two sisters, one in the West Bank, one in Jordan. They come and visit a lot, and my nieces. So we stay connected.
Okay, sure. Now, a while ago, you founded the Palestinian Aid Society of America.
Yes.
What is the mission of that, and what motivated you to do that?
Last years I was in Lebanon, and I was active in a Palestinian community, especially after 1967 and the number of refugees who came. And I taught in refugee camps in Lebanon, and I worked in a Palestine Research Center. So soon after I came here, the civil war in Lebanon erupted, and there were large casualties among the Palestinians in Lebanon. And so that was a motivation to do something, I wanted to help. I had many other Palestinian and Arab and American friends who really wanted to do something. And after spending a lot of time discussing, talking, consulting people, we decided to establish the Palestine Aid Society of America as a national organization, membership organization open to all. And the main goal was, maybe one is advocacy, to advocate for the Palestinian in their right for self-determination. And the other thing was to raise funds to help particularly organizations that support women, that empower women to, find employment. So these were the two missions. That's the mission, support the Palestinian in these two areas.
So, and the organization is still running today?
Not as much, with there's few chapters here and there, but it's not as strong as it used to be. And there's a lot of reasons. I don't know that we have time to go in them right now, but, with what's happening with fundraising and sending money overseas after 9/11, things got very complicated and people got, kind of worry about things.
Sure, but the need still continues because Palestinian people still don't have...
It is still continue, and we try to help to the extent we can. There's still, as I said, few chapters that are active, and they do a few things here and there, but it's nothing like when it was in heydays in the early 90s.
So the other nonprofit organization that you founded was the Arab American National Museum in Dearborn. And as I said earlier, before we started the recording the interview, is I was there just for an event a number of months ago. Big audience there for the Palestinian Comedy Festival, and our friend Amr Zahir, which he emceed beautifully, delightfully, humorously, and great response. A very vital organization. I mean, there are always events going on, cultural events, music events, art exhibits, historical things, tours going on there, school kids going through there. What was your motivation to do this? Because this is a major undertaking to start a museum from nothing.
Well, first of all, it takes more than one person to establish an organization like this. And the museum is a part of a larger Arab American organization, Access. And, when I joined Access initially, there was a small cultural art program, and the idea of it is to help people understand Arab American, their history, their culture, their experiences. But as time, I was there for a couple of years, and we were discussing how can we expand this program to be more effective, more impactful. And that discussion took, ultimately lend itself to the idea of, starting the museum. And I was appointed as the lead person to carry that project. So, there were architects, there were museum designer, there were friends, there were employees of Access. The director of Access, Ismail Ahmed, was, major contributor, and we had task force committee from the community. That helped us. We talked to other museums. You asked me if I have been to Grand Rapids. I have, and visited many museums around the country. And we established a national advisory committee. So I led the work, and but it took a lot of people to build it.
Sure, understand. And congratulations on your October induction into the Michigan Women's Hall of Fame. That's a real landmark achievement. What are you proudest of as you look back over your legacy?
Maybe it's going to sound a little bit strange to you. I'm proud of the museum. I'm very, very proud of that legacy. But maybe the thing that gives me the most joy and possibly I'm most proud of is the number of Arab American and other minority young women with whom, through my careers in Palestine Aid Society and my career at the museum, I had worked with, and I kind of mentored, and I see them flourish. Some are still at the museum, some in different parts of the world. They moved on, they married, they have children, but I see them successful, and they really, really, I always tell them, they make my heart smile to see them. They're beautiful, they're smart, they're capable, and I always tell them, don't anybody tell you otherwise. They really bring joy, and the fact that they stay connected with me and they visit and they write and some of them are close friends. Really, it's not as tangible at the museum, but it gives me a great joy. It really gives me a great joy.
Sure. And really, by extension, these are like your daughters and nieces.
They are. Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So I think that one of the most greatly misunderstood populations in the United States are Arab Americans. What would you like our viewers to know about this group of citizens?
I say Arab American is like any other group who immigrated to the United States. We're not better, we're not worse. I mean, people came to this country either to go to college and they stayed, or like myself, joined somebody they love and married. But we work hard. It's a hard-working community. We love this country. We are here by choice. And we're like everybody else. We came here to have better lives for ourselves, for our kids. And when people go through the museum and look and they say, comment, I used to take a lot of the groups, there, and they say, oh, this is like my family, and they're Greek or Italian or whatever. And I think I accomplished the goal. We are like everybody else. We have the good and bad. We have the successful and not so successful. Some are rich, some are not as lucky, some are educated, some didn't have the same opportunities. It just like we're like any other American. That's what I say.
Okay. Last question for you, because the theme of our show is about belonging.
Mm-hmm.
What is your understanding of, because you have lived in a number of places.
Right.
What is your understanding? What creates belonging for you?
I think what creates belonging is that inclusivity. When you are included as part of a collective, whether you meet a new group of people, they could be cliquish, you feel you don't belong. They could be very welcoming, you feel you belong. You move to a new city, you make friends quickly, people are interested in meeting you, talking to you, you feel you belong. You go to a country and, you are welcomed, you have opportunity, you go to college, you build a career for yourself, and you feel you belong. I really think one of the mistakes that often happen is when people talk about immigrants, whether Arabs, Muslims, Latino, whatever, is that when they are demonized, when they are talked about in a very negative way, they really don't help them to feel they belong, okay? They really don't. That doesn't help people to feel they belong. And if we want people of this country to feel belong, we should embrace everybody.
So,
when you're embraced, you cannot, if you go to somebody's home and everybody talk to you and tell you how happy they are to have you, and they feed you and they hug you, you feel you belong. If you go there and there are a group of people and they're busy talking and nobody bothered to take the time to talk to you, you feel an outsider. I think it applies to a family, to a community, to a city, and to a country.
So in a nutshell, maybe just take the chance, reach out and talk to somebody you haven't talked to before,
right,
so you can actually discover some mutuality.
I mean, this world is full of wonderful people. I mean, I am so lucky to have met so wonderful people here in this country, in Egypt, and you just have to be open to meet people. We're afraid of what we don't know. People are afraid of what they don't know. So if you allow yourself to know, you will find yourself that people love you and people are wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to have to leave it there for now, but I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my honor. Thank you.
Great. And for people watching back home, stay tuned. We'll be back in just a moment with some tips on American English, American culture, and a little bit of humor.
Especially when you lived the same situation. I was there. I was one of those kids in the classroom who didn't know what was going on. And I feel connected to my students, and I feel connected to the struggle.
So when you're growing up in New York, spending your time there,